Yeah, go ahead and hit record here. Hey everyone. So this is sort of a follow-up to that nice long ramble that I gave on Friday about agile stuff. And I wanted to talk today about daily stand-ups because they are sort of the low-hanging fruit when it comes to getting an agile practice going. They are something that no matter where you are in the process, it is beneficial for the team to be regularly talking to each other and communicating about like what is happening, what are they working on, what are some of the impediments that they're discovering. So let's start with a quick question. Is anybody already doing something that they think is a stand-up on any sort of regular basis?
Mauro and I are kind of doing daily-ish Scrum stand-ups. Maybe not daily, but we try to do them daily unless we forget.
But more than a couple of times a week, though?
Definitely more than a couple of times a week.
That's good. That's a lot more than nothing. So I would be lying if I said that I have made my submission to the daily stand-up every day. So, but it is one of those things that as you get into the habit of doing it, it is easier to just do it each day. So the core idea of the daily stand-up, and I'll call it a stand-up meeting or a stand-up Slack channel, the exact format is not super important. The content is what is important. So I may switch between words. But basically it is each day at the start of the day, everyone on the team says, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I'm planning to do today, and here are the things that are going to get into my way. So it's yesterday, today, and then any blockers that I am aware of, right? We are all aware that over the course of a day, there will be a lot more blockers that pop up, and that is okay. So I think it's also useful to talk about what the stand-up is and what it is not. So overall, the stand-up is a chance for the team that is doing work on something to communicate amongst themselves, right? So it would be me saying, here is what I am planning to do today, so that other people who are interacting with that same thing know that I am planning to do that today, so they can, you know, anything that follows on from that, they know that that's probably going to be tomorrow for them. These are supposed to be quick updates. If you're doing it as a meeting, a team of 7 or so people should be in and out and done in 15 minutes. If you are doing this sort of as Slack messages, it should take about 3 minutes to write your Slack message. 1 second.
He's gonna go write a Slack message.
Okay, sorry. My dinner just got here. So, the delivery is great.
Dinner, it's 4.
I'm planning ahead. So the whole idea of the stand-up is this is just very quick, and it is supposed to be something that sparks further discussion, right? If I say, I am writing an R function today. I am blocked because I don't understand the dplyr left join function, right? And I need to figure out how that works. That can spark a discussion with someone else on the team who sees that and they're like, oh, I know how that works. Let me give you some pointers, right? Or I am blocked on making this thing because I am waiting on Jackson to write this other section. Cool. That is a prompt for Jackson and I to have a discussion of like, is there any way you can take something that was on your plate today and move it to tomorrow so that you can get this blocker for me done, right? It is supposed to be a short status update that then leads to further one-on-one or maybe three-person conversations. And it is all focused on the team and the work that they are doing. So this is not a place for a project manager to be like, here is the status of the project as it stands today, as opposed to where it was yesterday. That is not this thing, right? So it might be useful to take a look at just an example of my stand-up today. Can everyone see this? Cool. So here, this is like the stand-up that I gave for Noemi and Taylor, like the asset resolution team. And it's, here's what I did yesterday, a couple of things. Here's what I'm planning to do today. And here are the things that I know are going to be an issue as I try to complete those things. Some things to note that are not here. I am not including meetings in this. I am including this meeting because I had to do some work to prepare for that, but I am not including meetings that are just like I show up, I absorb my information, I take part in the meeting, and then I move on. Those are, if I'm not doing anything specifically to prepare for it, it doesn't belong in the stand-up, it belongs in a calendar. Also, a thing to note, the thing that is in the today section is intent. It is not a, it is not like a binding set in stone commitment. These things that I got done yesterday, 2 of them were not on my list for yesterday's stand-up, and definitely a bunch of the stuff that was on yesterday's stand-up got carried over to today. So this is expressing intent, and it is expressing here's what has actually happened, so that if you see something getting pushed back day after day after day after day, that is another one of those, we should have a conversation about what is happening with this particular issue. Questions so far? Cool.
I might have a question, which is, I don't know, maybe goes too deep. How do you deal with blockers where you can't really overcome them?
Right.
So I'm one where maybe, yeah, a person can't reschedule things, or where you have kind of a mental blocker to, like, maybe something like that. How do you deal with those?
Yeah. That is a common problem. That is an unfortunately common problem. And I think that is part of the value in making this sort of a more public forum, is if someone can't reschedule something, maybe is there someone else who could take that on? Or if there is like a mental block, right? Is this something that someone else can like chip in 15 minutes of their time and like have a conversation and hopefully like talk through it with you and get the ball rolling? A really common type of blocker is something that no one in the organization can do anything about, and it's just like a fact of life because it is, and we are waiting for some external person to sign a contract so that we can do the next thing, right? I ran into that a lot on previous jobs, and that is okay as a blocker, because it's like, we can't do any work until that happens, or we can't do any work on this until that happens. So here is what we are doing instead. And that then gives the signal to a project manager or whoever is the point of contact to poke that external person a little more. So it is no matter what blocker is happening, hopefully there is someone who can offer something.
If you're waiting for something external or something, would you put that then always on your list of what you intend to do? Because obviously you might intend to do that, but if it's unrealistic that this is happening today, then I think it might also prolong this list to an unnecessary length.
Like the way that I have dealt with that in the past is I would be like, yesterday I cleared out tasks A and B, today doing C, D, and E, and then blockers, I can't even start on task X until I get a contract signed, right? And a useful way to deal with that would be to, like, in a reply, be like, hey, at Noemi, can you poke whoever needs to sign that contract to get them to sign it? That is the useful, that is one of the big values of doing it as a Slack versus an in-person meeting, but the same dynamic happens either way, of just like, I am blocked on this. You, person that I know who can do something about it, will you please do something about it? Or similarly, if it's a mental blocker, like, hey, I've got an R programming question, Maro, Jackson, Pranav, can one of you tell me how the hell this function works, right? So it is all of this is supposed to lead to more conversation when there are issues, right? Ideally, everyone hopes that their stand-up updates are spectacularly boring and like, yesterday I got all my work done, today here's what I'm doing, there are no blockers, life is great, right? That doesn't ever happen. So a thing that is also useful to recognize is who is in the meeting or who is in your stand-up Slack channel, right? It should be the team of people that you are working with on a thing pretty closely, right? I know that like the idea of having a coordinated project team with some sort of structure is not existent here, but it is useful that if you can identify a couple of people who are working on the same thing, right? Somewhere between 3 and 7, definitely no more than a dozen people, right? If you have a dozen people in a stand-up, that's too many. But you say, here are the people that I'm working with on this thing, right? So for my example, I've got a stand-up for asset resolution, and I'm starting a stand-up channel for the project management task force. And I will very literally just copy and paste the same post to both channels, because that gives both teams visibility on, here are the things that I'm doing for you today. Here is where the rest of my time is going. And here is the stuff that I am doing not for you today. And generally the people who are in the Slack channel are the people doing the work and whatever project manager is tracking that. And again, I know that those are very nebulous terms for us, but I guess the person who is orchestrating that work is a more loose way to phrase that.
And you actually just quickly, I kind of missed what you just said. So in the context, let's say I'm part of two different teams with two different project managers, both of which are saying that there's all these tasks that need to be prioritized, and what would be the manner and like the communication and saying this is what I'm doing today and it's for this task and I'm not getting to this unless I finish those things that are on the tasks in my other stand-up. What would be the approach to that communication?
Yeah, so like here I've just like each bullet point is one of the projects that I'm working on, right? And there may be a couple of things underneath each one of them, but it is the people who are caring about what I'm doing for AR can very quickly identify that, and they can see, oh, he is also doing other stuff. The people who care about project management task force stuff can say, here's what he's doing for that. He is also doing other stuff. And if there is a conflict, stand-up channels should be open. They should be visible so that, if I need to hash out a conversation about what I am doing on any particular day with my project managers, like that goes in as a thread underneath my stand-up report for that day. And it would be like, at Sarah, hey, at Noemi wants me to focus on this today, right?
Yeah.
So that, again, that is a conversation that happens after the fact.
I know I'm getting a little deep into the weeds like already, so I'm just gonna ask one more question and then I'm done. But I kind of do want to start just doing this already, like and experimenting and seeing, how if it works and if it doesn't. So would it be like, let's say the example you're showing on the Teams screen right here.
Yeah.
Let's say you have like AR tech is going to be one group of people, group of 3 to 5 people where they're all keen on understanding what's going on with AR tech. And then PM task force is another group of 10 people who are, keen on knowing what you're doing there. Mm-hmm. Would you just, and presumably though, each of those groups would have their own separate kind of stand-up channel because there's different people involved and different people that care. Yeah. Would you just kind of copy and paste that same stand-up message?
I literally copy and paste it. Yeah.
In both channels and just say like, here you go. Okay.
Yep. That is exactly how I do it. Cool. At my last job, I had 4 different stand-up channels that I reported to because that was the structure we had, and I was a data engineer, so I touched a lot of projects. And yeah, no, I would literally just write, here's what's going on, copy, paste, 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 paste. And then there would be some discussion following up to various different versions of that. The key is to try and either consolidate that discussion or make sure everyone can see every version of it.
So a quick reminder that we are about 9 minutes to the end, just to be mindful of time.
Yeah, I've basically given my spiel. This is time to get into the weeds. So questions welcome.
You're using Teams, it looks like.
Yeah, asset resolution is on Teams. But
so
the same thing.
Everybody of you has a separate account, right?
Say again?
Can we use it even though we just have like this high level Berlin 1, Berlin 2, Berlin 3 accounts? I guess not, right?
I mean, if you wanted to contribute to the stand-up for asset resolution, you're more than welcome to, but that is probably not the interesting way. Let me scroll back here a little bit to when we were doing it on Slack. How do I stop sharing? I am technically.
I guess maybe the follow-up question is Teams versus Slack. Do you use both, or how does that work?
I think we just use Slack. I don't think it's a.
Yeah, 2DI, stick with Slack. It's what you've got right now. AR is transitioning for entirely unrelated reasons. Here is from, I guess, a week or so ago. This is Noemi, Taylor, and me just like throwing our daily.
But this is Slack again, right?
Yeah. This is Slack. It is, and we have not at AR developed the good practice yet of doing it in its own channel, giving yesterday, today blockers. That is something I'm trying to encourage over there. But even just having a step of, here is what I'm aiming for today is better than nothing, right? I think that is one of the big things, is like any part of this that you take is still more than we are doing right now. The like, everybody reports at the beginning of their day, yesterday, today, blockers, that is like the gold standard we should aim for. But if we don't get there, then that is something we can continue to move towards. A note that I sort of glossed over earlier, it's important that this be early in the day for each person. And I know with like distributed teams, especially the US people who get on noticeably later, like that can be a thing. But generally the way that I would do this is open up my computer as the coffee is brewing, check my emails, see if anything caught fire overnight. If I need to like immediately deal with that stuff, I do it. And then like as soon as I have like some breathing room or my email inbox is empty and I know what I'm doing for the day, then I write my stand-up update.
Maybe one quick question from my side, because you said you were in multiple different stand-ups in your past job. And in general, I was wondering if you have a view on whether that should rather be project-based or, so to speak, team-based, in the sense of teams of like people working with somewhat similar tools.
Right, yeah.
Because I have basically just done the team-based version so far, but I could imagine maybe something else could also be good.
So that
maybe I can comment, because I think that's actually a very, very good point. Speaking of the point that Mauro and Jackson are doing this already in a team-based version, like the code base. I think if there's blockers, it would be actually good that it's project-based as well. So, I mean, you could do either both, but it would help you, I guess it could help you a lot actually to post it also always in the bank's channel, because there might be some blockers I can remove in like 2 seconds, where it might take you a few hours to a day or whatever.
Yeah. This is a thing that each organization finds its own happy place regarding like how many stand-ups are people willing to tolerate being in. But it is, so at my the 4 stand-ups I was in were 3 project-based stand-ups and then 1 for the team of data engineers we had, right? So, and that was useful because if my blocker was based in a project, I could get an answer about that from other people who were dealing about that project, right? If my blocker was based on some technical ability that I was missing, posting it in the data engineers stand-up was good because that is where I could get answers to those questions. So it's definitely something like, if you find yourself in a stand-up with a dozen people in it, it's probably too big of a team. But if you are in a group of a half dozen, maybe 9 people that are of similar technical interest to you, that can be a really productive stand-up. And it can also give you a lot of visibility, not just within your project, but also what other people are working on with the same skills you are on different projects, which is, I think, falls into that whole not a lot of visibility in what's going on around us. So
we have a couple of more minutes to go. So anyone mentioning comments or questions, think of those as a way to wrap up as well.
I have a big one. How do you think about having a channel that is just presenting blockers to directors, where we think directors are the only one to solve it? Is that something that would work? Is that, like, do you have any views, experiences with that? I mean, our organization might be a special case, but maybe you have experience in the past.
Yeah. The way that I have experienced that in the past is normally the people that I would think of as comparable to directors in previous organizations were fairly detached from the actual work being done. So directly presenting them a blocker was not useful in any significant way. That said, here, our directors are pretty involved in the work being done. So I don't know how that would fly, but the way that I have had that dealt with in the past is I present my stand-up, it has a blocker in it, and I tag my project manager, my scrum master, whatever that middle layer in between people doing work and people doing strategic thinking is, and they take that issue and raise that to the top, which then takes me, the person doing the work, and I can focus on other stuff that day, knowing that that project manager, scrum master is dealing with that for me.
Okay, yeah, so that just basically means we need to have this layer of like scrum masters that have a good connection to the directors, or like a daily check-in possibility, something like that.
Right. And like, when you have this as a daily check-in, like, the scrum masters become immediately aware of the issue and like can follow up, get more details, and then when they take it to the directors, they can provide all of the necessary context. It is a thing that is a useful structure. We're clearly not there yet. I would say at this point, if I have a blocker that only a director can solve, I would not directly tag them with my issue. I would either put that in a private channel or talk to someone else and who does have a good relationship with the director and let them float it up. But I would not make that, I would not involve directors in the stand-up process. This is a very team focused thing. And I would worry that they would swoop down from above and muddy the waters with who knows what they're thinking.
Alex and everyone, I'm very happy to be having this conversation and seeing excitement. Alex, the last one before we wrap up, how can we follow up? Is that the document? Is just emailing you? How would you like this conversation to follow, given that we need to kind of close now?
Yeah, so I am available if you want me to help facilitate stand-ups, either real-time meetings or a Slack channel. I'm absolutely willing to do that. Just ping me on Slack. There is a link to a Google document in the description for this event. Definitely feel free to make comments, add questions, whatever you want on that. Just, you all know how to get a hold of me. Just hit me up, I'm here.
Thank you. Well, the ds-incubator is now becoming every time more strong in using that document. So maybe if you have thoughts that we didn't have time to share today, please capture them there, and I will be kind of watching with Alex that document and kind of making sure to find the person who can follow up on your question or comment. Thank you very much, Alex. Then you can just say goodbye whenever you're ready, and send the video to me when you can.
See you all at Data, Harold.